Hey, what's going on, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Excited to be with you on another podcast episode. Today, I bring a special guest. She was actually a student of our review course, which you can find at civilpereviewcourse.com to help her on her journey to pass her PE exam. Ended up taking it in water resources. Her name is Kim Truong, and she actually started her schooling by going to Boston University, later went to UCLA to get her master's, has been working as a consultant, doing all kinds of fun things in the environmental world. But I wanted to hear her journey because it's kind of unique in that she actually was out with her husband stationed in Okinawa and has been working as a consultant, working with the United States Air Force, but has found this time to sneak in taking the PE exam and wanted to hear her experience on doing that. So if you're taking your PE exam anytime, or if you want to get some inspiration about your prep in passing either the water resources or any one of the depth exams that you choose, Kim definitely has some insights and shares a lot of knowledge with those that are listening. So excited about this one. I'm excited that she came on and shared her journey with us, and I think you will enjoy this as well. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and shut up and let's get to my interview with Kim coming up right after this. All right, Kim, we're rocking and rolling. Thanks for joining me today on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. I appreciate you doing this with me.
Yeah, of course. It's kind of nice to put a face to the disfigured voice that I heard on every video.
Telling you to get your favorite beverage and
settle in and get your favorite beverage. Yeah.
Yeah, you ran through the course, so Kim, I appreciate you doing that, and you're relatively recent passer of the PE exam, and so we wanted to bring you on and kind of congratulate you and talk about, I guess, what you went through. And so I always start these out though, just kind of getting your own background information. I'd love to know maybe what you do now and maybe how you found yourself into this world of civil engineering.
Yeah, so right now I'm in between jobs. My journey on this PE has been kind of extended, as you know, because we've now been talking for probably 2 years. I consider myself a late bloomer in terms of engineering. I started my undergrad in environmental science, and I didn't realize I wanted to be an engineer until after I graduated. So I went to grad school at UCLA for civil and environmental engineering. And then right out of school, I became a consultant. And I kind of got wrapped up in that consultant world and was kind of just chugging along and doing my job. And I didn't really have a ton of time to study for the PE. And the FE at the time, I guess. And by the time that I was ready to take the FE, I was actually living in Okinawa, Japan with my husband. And so I was a civil engineer at the Air Force Base there, and they were really, generous with giving me time to study at work. So that was really nice. And so now I'm in between jobs. I just applied for my PE license in Virginia, and then once I get that, I'll probably hop onto I think I'll get back into consulting. I kind of enjoyed that.
Do you like the flexibility of it? Is that kind of what you like there? Or?
The flexibility. I liked it can be fast paced, and I kind of liked that. I'm really enjoy having projects, and sort of having them end. I think that's how I realized when I was in my master's program that I didn't want to get a PhD, and I was like, no, I need a little bit more certainty and structure and knowing things that will end. And I like just in a consulting firm, I think I just had a lot of ability to touch a lot of different kinds of projects, and so I liked that.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of people kind of are trying to figure that out. Do they like consulting? Do they want to work for a big consulting firm, a small consulting firm, government, or all those kind of decisions? So I'm glad you have figured that out. That's awesome. So let's dive a little bit into your exam experience. So you took your FE, and how long of a wait did you have there before you took your PE?
After I took the FE, I was like riding high. I was like, that was awesome. Like, I can definitely do this. And I had already gotten into that studying mindset, and I was like, let's just keep this ball rolling. So right after I passed the FE, I registered for the PE like right away. And I gave myself, I can't remember, like 3 or 4 months, like between the FE and the PE to give myself time to study. Um, but sort of like life got in the way, and I had to put that on hold. And so that was in 2022. And so then I finally took the PE just at the end of July of this year. And yeah, it was a long time coming.
And which depth exam did you end up going with?
Water resources. That's kind of my jam, and I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. So could you describe a little bit about, you initially considered doing a self-study, and did you do self-study before you looked elsewhere for help, or what was that thought process?
Yeah. So I did self-study for the FE, and that's why I thought that I would also do self-study for the PE. Mm-hmm. But as I started studying for the PE, this was also before the format change in April of this year. So I was studying for the old PE, and because I didn't start off as an engineering undergrad, I felt like there were a lot of holes in my just general engineering knowledge. And so once I got into it, I was like, oh, I'm like kind of getting overwhelmed. I was kind of anxious. And I was like, I don't really know how and where to start. So I was like, I know that I'm really good with structure, and I'm really good with schedules, and that's a really good way for me to be disciplined and, stay on it. So I was like, okay, I think I need some help.
Gotcha. And so did you do a bunch of research on where to go for help? I guess, how did you discover Civil Engineering Academy?
Well, I think it helps that you have civil engineering in the name, but I kind of just Googled. I just Googled and kind of read through the different options and the different programs. And because at the time I was living in Japan, I knew I couldn't do a live study. Mm-hmm. And I wanted something that wasn't just videos, because there's some things that are just videos and problems and that's it. Well, I think what I really liked about Civil Engineering Academy and what kind of sold me was knowing that I could talk to a real person at any time, and that they would answer my questions, and I could just ask all the questions that I wanted, and that they would be there, and that was amazing. And I could see all the other students' questions and kind of learn from them too. And so I think that's something that really drew me to it. So I could do it on my own in a different time zone and still talk to a person.
That's great. So I think, at least I like to think that one of the biggest reasons why people enjoy our course is the support that we provide. So it sounds like that was a feature that you really enjoyed. I know we give people access to a private community. If you have questions via email, we'll be there to answer them quickly. So I'm glad that you experienced that. Was there any other features of the course that you liked?
Definitely the videos and the practice problems. And I think just the idea of self-paced videos with help is that I could see exactly how long every module was going to be. And so it helped me kind of parse out my time.
That makes sense. Every PE exam is a challenge, no matter which one you take. I'm just curious, but was there any surprises when you went and took your water resources exam that you felt like maybe came out of nowhere or you were surprised by?
Yeah, I guess, I was surprised. So I think one of the biggest sections on the new water resources is, I think it's called project planning. That's the name of the section. And, I was pretty okay with it. And that was, it's quantity takeoff and blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I think the way that presented itself, those questions presented itself, kind of surprised me. There was a lot, I don't know if I was just, getting out of there and just remembering all of the things that I did poorly, which I think everybody does after every exam. but there were a lot of like vertical and horizontal questions. Vertical and horizontal
Curve.
Yeah, curve questions.
Yeah.
There were a few of those, and I was like, well, I guess that's sort of important to water resource. I get it. And then like the project planning, I don't know. One of them was like, there's this distance in this truck, and they have to move this much, and like, what's the optimum amount of trucks to like optimize your load moving? And I was like, okay, well, I mean, it wasn't hard. I think I just wasn't familiar with like, I guess I don't know. That was surprising to me.
I gotcha. Yeah, there's always something on these exams where you feel like that came out of nowhere. When you took the exam, did you feel like there was a lot of theory questions thrown at you? Was that a surprise?
It was not a surprise. I kind of expected it, since they were going into like a more concentrated version of the PE for the different disciplines. I was like, okay, well, if they're going to test what you really know, it's not just going to be calculations. They're really going to test a lot of theory. And so I was prepared for it, and I thought that was okay.
Okay. Did you feel like our course helped you organize or streamline your preparation in any way?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I said, like knowing that the modules, how long they were, and what were in them. But since I did do my PE before the new format came out, I used all of your videos, and what I did was I looked at the new format and kind of listed all the different sections from like most number of questions to least number of questions. And then I kind of took your videos and modules and kind of like pieced them together and kind of made my own little study thing. So I still had all of the material, mostly, had all of the material that I needed. I just had to put them in a different order, and whatever I didn't have, I kind of supplemented it with the reference manual.
That makes sense. Because when you took it, we hadn't updated the course yet. And then we updated the course to match the new specs. And we're still updating courses.
That was the day before I was going to take my exam. And I was like, do I mess up my head and like look at this? Or like I was already like locked in. I had a day in between finishing studying and like taking the exam. Like, this is my downtime. As tempting as it is, I'm not going to look at the new material and mess myself up psychologically.
That makes sense. That was probably a good move. You ended up passing. Yeah. So, what advice would you give to someone about taking practice exams? Do you feel like that was a key to preparation, or how did you take practice exams?
Yeah, definitely taking practice exams is a must do. A lot of people tell you to, replicate your exam conditions. I think sitting and doing it all the way through and sort of figuring your timing is really important. But the way that I also like to do the practice exams is that I would go through and do them all. And if I didn't know how to do it, I would check myself with the answer, and I would star those questions and those types of questions. So at the end of the exam, I was like, okay, I really needed to work on horizontal and vertical curves. And so I would put that down, and I would just go back to the reference manual or go back to the practice videos and find all of those questions and then do those. And then after I reviewed all of the topics I wasn't as keen on, I would try and do it again. And because I have like really, like limited short-term memory. So if I do the exam again, like I'm not remembering every single thing. So I do it again and make sure that it feels natural to me. And like I know exactly where to look for the answer in the reference manual.
That's awesome. Do you feel like so in the course we provide a CBT exam. What was that experience like? Did you enjoy that? Did you feel like that helped you in any way?
Yeah, I think that it did. It's definitely helpful to just kind of get the mechanics of being on a screen and like having the paper next to you and having the screen and then having the split screen with the references. So yeah, I thought it was nice.
Well, yeah, we definitely try to prep you, I guess, well in advance of the real exam. We hope to give you exposure to something that looks very similar to the real deal. So it's good to hear your own take on that. I guess what advice or tips would you give for someone that's taking the water resources specifically, that you felt like, hey, if I was going to tell somebody and they're taking this exam, these are some of the tips I'd give them?
That's a good question. I'm assuming if you're taking the water resources exam, your background is in water resources. And I guess, I don't know, I had already learned most of these things in grad school. And so it's kind of like, don't overthink it and, just do it and be confident that you can do it. And that's all you really can do. That's not water resources specific. I think that's just testing in general.
Yeah. Were you excited when the specs changed to be water resources?
Absolutely. 100%. I was like, this is the most serendipitous thing ever, because if I had taken it in 2022 when I was in Japan, I think it would have been much more unnerving for me. And so once I heard that it was going to be water resource specific, I was like, oh, I got this. I love water resources. I went to grad school for it. I have taken a hydrology, all of those things. I was like, this is so much easier because now I don't have to learn bits of structural and electrical, which I never did. And I'm sure a lot of the people back in the old PE, they were like, this is the hardest part because I have to learn everything I may or may not have learned before.
Yeah, that's true. So in your own timeline, you didn't take the exam in Japan, right? Or did you?
I took the FE in Japan, and then I took a PE in Washington, D.C.
Wow, that's awesome. And was the process the same taking the FE in Japan? Did you had to find a testing center and all that jazz?
Yeah, so for military families and military spouses, they have a reasonable accommodations, and so there's a testing center. There's only, I think, 2 testing centers in Japan, one in Osaka and one in Tokyo. And so you just kind of the same thing. They just have fewer offerings, and so you have to really time it in. Because I lived in Okinawa on an island, I had to really plan ahead of time. But for the most part, it was the same. The testing at the Pearson Testing Center is the one I went to. It was very, very similar, oddly similar.
So when you were there and you're preparing for the PE exam, it sounds like you're really good at mapping out a schedule that would work for your study. What advice would you give to someone about building a schedule and kind of sticking to it?
Yeah, that's also a really good question. I'm sure a lot of people struggle with that. I think the hardest thing, so at the time I was working when I was beginning to study for the PE, I think the biggest challenge was coming home after work and just mustering up the energy and the motivation to continue working. And, you work all day, you come home, you study, you eat, and then the weekend comes and all your friends are going out to do things, and it's just really hard. So, I don't know, keep your eye on the prize and just know that it's temporary. It's not going to last forever. All of the things you're missing out on, it's not going to be worth your anxiety or your, the extra effort you're going to have to put in if you fail. So that's number one. Number two, because I like to be prepared, I gave myself a little bit of a buffer time. So whatever I thought that I needed, I gave myself a little bit more time in terms of when I'm going to take the PE. So if I thought I was going to take 3 months, I gave myself a 4th month just in case. So I wasn't stressed out at the end. And I think that served me really well, because by the time I was ready, I felt ready. And in terms of a schedule, just make it around your own schedule, what you have to do. I prioritized the modules and the topics from most prevalent to least prevalent in the exam. I would suggest doing that too. I forget if your modules are set up that way, but kind of like that.
Yeah, currently we just kind of follow the specifications. So, people want that stuff to follow the spec. So we followed the spec. And, but yeah, I mean, obviously there's more problems related to a specific subject, so it probably should give more weight and attention to that particular subject. That definitely makes sense.
Yeah, that's how I did it. I was like, oh, what was it at the end? I don't know. Something was like very few questions. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just spend the least amount of time on that because the chances that it's going to come up are much lower than, I don't know, closed conduits or something.
Exactly. Well, take me through the day you got your results. What was that like?
Wow. I really didn't want to check. So they tell you like between 7 and 10 days, and my husband and I are very, very different. And so like he said, like, so he is a PE too. He got his PE in mechanical like very soon after he graduated from undergrad. And so he was like, I would check the very next day if I were you. Like, even if they told me 7 days, I would check right away. And I'm the complete opposite. I was like, as long as I don't know the answer, I haven't technically failed yet. And so I was kind of like in that boat. And so he was like, okay, you know, like we'll just go in an easy, like a calming space. And we did it, and I checked, and I didn't even see the word pass. I just saw the green, if you know what I'm talking about. Like I just saw the green, and that's all I needed to know. And I freaked out. I was so happy. I was so relieved because I was like, I cannot do this again. And I was like, I don't know, but I felt great, and it felt really validating because, like I said, I was kind of a late bloomer for engineering, and without that undergraduate, I always feel like I needed some kind of validation, and so it was kind of nice to have it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing those stories of opening that. Well, back when I took it, they used to mail you the results, and so if you took it, you know, you could potentially get it just before Christmas, and
oh gosh, that's horrible.
Really horrible Christmas.
I would definitely be the person who waits until after Christmas and after New Year's. That would be me.
You did the April exam, not the October, but now that's all changed up. So
yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I applaud you for passing. I think that's super exciting, and I'm excited about your future. Is there any, I guess, final piece of advice you would give to somebody taking this particular exam?
I don't know if I have advice for this particular exam.
What about if you're a repeat taker? What's your mindset on that if you do have to repeat it?
That's a good question because I was also mentally preparing to be a repeat taker. I think what really brought me a lot of comfort when I felt like, you know, I might need to retake it's really not that big of a deal. I think some people, they take it a few times, and that's okay. And I think the less pressure you feel, I think better you'll perform overall. And just, you know, just think of it just as another thing.
That definitely makes sense to do. Another question I often get, and I'm curious your opinion, is what if somebody wants to switch their exam? What would you say to them?
I saw your email on that. I saw your email. I saw that you were doing a talk. You know, I never really thought about it. I guess I just never considered it because my specialty is water resources engineering. And then I also saw in your email that water resources engineering is like one of the higher passing ones. And a lot of people consider switching to that. I don't think it'll serve you in the long run, if I've had to guess. I mean, if you want to have a PE in a certain discipline, I think it might be better to stick with it. But I don't know. What was your idea? I didn't actually open your email and watch the video.
Yeah, we kind of hit on that. We record these videos called quick tip videos. So if you're interested in checking those out, go check out our YouTube channel. But we recorded a video about whether you should change your exam or not. So a lot of people repeat the exam, and a lot of times, unless you have a pretty good reason, and then we have another video coming out about what those reasons may be to switch, I think it's wise to try to stick with the exam that you've become accustomed to taking, because you've put in so much effort, you've put in so much money into the resources you've bought, and switching exams is almost like starting over a little bit. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
that
that's
would be
exactly,
hard.
I think that's how I would feel too. I mean, if I studied so long for water resources and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna do transportation, I think that would turn my whole world upside down.
Yeah, it's hard. There are reasons why people do it, and you got to watch our YouTube video. We'll explain some of that later. But
Well,
there are reasons. So, but that's anyway, that's my take on it. But
it's a good
anyway.
promo for your video. I really want to know now.
Yeah, we got that out. Well, thank you for joining me today. Thanks for sharing your journey. If you were to recommend, I guess, Civil Engineering Academy's course to anybody, why would you recommend it to someone else?
I guess I would say, I mean, out of all the different ones, I feel like Civil Engineering Academy has had a really personal touch and has had like a really good just line of communication between the instructors and yourself. And, I feel like it's like second best to being in a classroom, in my opinion. If you can't always be in a classroom, I feel like this is definitely what I would do instead of, I don't know. That's I really have enjoyed the personal touch and the access to the instructors.
That's great. No, we love hearing that stuff. So we try to be there for people. We want to be responsive. I'm here. We're here to help you. I know how crappy this exam experience is. It's the whole reason why I started Civil Engineering Academy in the first place, is because I went through it, and I've been trying to help people ever since. So
Yeah, no,
we'll try to make it less sucky.
Yeah, no, it's really nice, and I don't know, it's comforting, I guess, and all of your videos and like just talking to us, it does feel comforting. That it's not just like kind of a giant conglomerate of whoever, wherever making these videos. You're a real person.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Well, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast, giving your tips on taking water resources, and so excited about your own journey. Thanks for sharing it, and maybe we'll chat in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Isaac. Thanks for everything.
Yeah, see ya.
See ya.